But it sounds like you weren't necessarily super interested in fashion at first, and it's kind of something that you got into, like as you came to LA. Did you start developing like a love for fashion itself, like from being out here and being around it more, like with interning at Diesel and things like that?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And of course, like in Wisconsin, I would have been like, yeah, I'm super fashionable. But like, I look back at stuff I would wear. Right. I was kind of like fresh off the boat in that sense. Like, I look back at like some of those outfits I was wearing when I first moved to LA, and I was like, wow, I really looked crazy. But yeah, to your point, I was never planning on working in fashion. Like, I literally thought I was going to like work in music or, you know, like start doing raves here or something. I mean, I literally had no idea. Right. And so somebody was like, oh, like when I was literally like, what's a showroom? Like when somebody told me about the Diesel showroom. So of course, like living in LA has made me like want to always like evolve and, you know, dress better and look cool and like, you know, because it's really for you and it's like not for what other people perceive of you. It's how you feel and what you're wearing. And like, you know, I think that like, that's something I can really say about even like my body. It's like, I would do that for myself because I feel more confident. And so it's like the clothes, it's just like an icing on the top. It's like, you know, so I think that, yeah, of course, like once I did work for Diesel and like work in the fashion industry, like, and plus it was like before the stock market kind of crashed in like 2008, like it was so crazy. It was like, that was like the booming industry. Like people made like money, you know, it's kind of like almost like how crypto is now or something, you know.
You're talking
like,
about fashion. And
just, being in sales.
In sales, okay.
You know, it's like stores made a lot of money. The reps made a lot of money. Like, you know, like I was like, had friends that were making like $500,000 a year, like being a sales rep, you know. And like, it was just like really a good time to be in that world. And then once the stock market kind of crashed and like, and plus brands change, you know, like brands that are like huge, they'll have a dip, you know, like I'm just thinking of some examples that
like I was even like when you were talking about that, I was thinking about in the 90s how we had like Sean John, Fat Farm, Rockaware, like all of those big brands, like the rappers were really like pushing all of their own stuff and how it kind of phased out a little bit. But then I don't know, you kind of see it coming back a little bit more with like, you know, Yeezy with his kind of stuff or Kanye with certain people like kind of push them a little bit more, but it seemed like everybody had a fashion brand like in the 90s.
Oh yeah, I mean that was so fun, you know, like and when I was like going to like Magic and all those trade shows back in the day, I would always walk Magic because that's where most of those brands that you mentioned were showing was like, you know, Sean John, Baby Fat, like all those, you know,
Apple Bot.
But, and I think those brands are now nostalgic and like that early 2000s look of like sparkly, you know, crop tops and things like that. And like velour track pants and all that is like so popular still like right now. Right. So I think it's like a good time for things like that to come back. But like, I think how fashion has changed like on the industry side of it is like back in the day, which is what I was explaining, you could open a store, a brick and mortar store, and carry brands like Diesel or, you know, Miss 60 or whatever, or Sean John, or, you know, it just depends on what customer you had. Right. And you could carry those brands and you could make a really good living and you could like sell a lot of it. And like, but yeah, I mean, I've seen it sort of change and, you know, after like kind of 2008, and that's why I kind of got out of it is like, I just sort of like I was like, after I worked for Triple Soul, I started, you know, selling like kind of more like up and coming brands, and I was like, this is really challenging. And you know, now what I sell is totally different. It's sort of like showing people like, okay, this is what's new, and they buy it. You know, it's like it's not like, I mean, that sounds bad to say, but it's not like I really have to go out and like hit. You know, of course I like hit up stores, but most people know. The stores that I'm hitting up, they know what Tokidoki is already, you know, because, so it's not like I'm like starting from scratch, starting from the bottom. And when I was doing that, like for a while, I was like, this is really hard. And not like, I mean, of course there's challenges that are good that you want to overcome, but like sometimes like, that's why like when people want to start a brand, I will always break it down to them, like all the different things to expect, the challenges that you're going to encounter, you know, because I think it's the idea part is always like the most fun, right? Like what's your why behind why you're doing the brand? You know, it can't just be like, oh, I want a brand and be cool and, you know what I mean, look cool to my friends and own a brand. You know, it's like who's your customer, really figuring that out, you know? And, you know, brands like Diesel and, you know, I was already walking into like them being successful, you know? So I think it's more interesting the ones that I saw become successful.
Right.
Like, you know, even Tokidoki I could talk, because I sort of like worked there, you know, now they've been around for like, I want to say like 17 or 18 years. So I've worked there 11. So I've kind of been there, you know, I wasn't there at the very beginning, and they actually got really successful because they did a collaboration with the Sports Act that like put them on the map, and they like started it was like everywhere. And it was like around the same time that Gwen Stefani had Harajuku Lovers. And you know, like if you went into the Sports Act, you'd just see all like Harajuku Lovers collab and then Tokidoki's collab, and that really got, you know, both those brands out there. So I guess for my advice to starting a brand is really know why you're doing it, who you're selling it to, and yeah, the intention behind it, like what, you know, why do you want a brand, and like, yeah, who do you want to wear it, and really honing in on those things, you know, because like a Hello Kitty or Sanrio, they're doing it like small gift, big smile. That's their whole intention. And like, I think Tokidoki's kind of similar. Well, Tokidoki means sometimes in Japanese, and it's kind of like the concept of almost like The Secret. It's like basically like, you know, like sometimes like in life something like magical happens, you know, like when you're just like, you're like, oh, everything is aligning, and like that's sort of like the concept behind Tokidoki. And so like when really magical things happen within the company, there will be like, that's a really Tokidoki moment, you know. And like we've had a lot of moments of like that as a brand. But the creative designer Simone, he's very, very, very he's just so invested in the brand and in the artwork, and like he really is so passionate about it. So it's like you need to have that like 100% passion. And I think that when I was thinking about doing a brand, I was like, do I really 100% want to do this? You know what I mean? And because if you don't, like for instance, one of my best friends started a chip brand, and like she got it into like Erewhon and Lassen's and like a couple other like mothers, but like there's so much that went into having that brand. It was like a cassava chip brand, like so like no grain and like, you know, like corn free and like non-GMO, you know, organic, all those things that like people want. But it just ended up sort of being something that, you know, it wasn't like it was too challenging for her, but it's like, in order to really get like a brand off the ground, it's like you have to put in everything, you know, I think. So, you know, people, I think Kanye, I mean, I watched his documentary and like...
Oh man, I did too.
Yeah, and it's like, you really kind of, you're like, okay, well, I really get why he's successful. Because it's not like, even in the documentary, they show him struggling and people not believing in him, and people think, you know, not considering him, seeing him as more of a producer and not a rapper, and never giving him that shine. And you have to kind of know that is your path, and like know it more than anyone else. You know what I mean? And like, because there's going to be 100 moments where people are going to doubt you, question you. And I've even noticed that in my own life, even like doing things like OnlyFans, people are like, what are you doing? And like, you know, like, this is crazy, or like, why is your ass all over the internet? And like, why are you doing these things? And I'm like, this is what I want to do. And so whatever you do, you have to be so convicted that you're doing the right thing, or no one else is going to be convinced, you know? But like, that's why that was my big takeaway from the Kanye documentary. I was like, wow, he's real. I get why he, you know, then he was like, I want a fashion brand. Yeah. And that's what he did. And he has like such a successful one that everybody wants to wear, you know? So kudos to him. And that like definitely taught me something. And I was like, well, that's what I'm saying. People that are successful, it's like not like they just get there like, you know, accidentally. It's like it's like really a lot of work.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you too. Because you were a DJ too.
Yeah.
What's the wildest party you did like while you was in LA? Like, what's the wildest party you've been to? Wildest experience at a party?
Like as a DJ or as an attendee?
Both.
Well, as a DJ, I wouldn't say that like I DJ'd like super crazy parties. Like I DJ'd at a lot of like hipster, like kind of cool kid nights. Like nothing that was like super underground, but like I mean, it's been crazy to see the evolution. That's a whole nother thing, which you know, I've always been more into like techno, house, like that sort of genre. And like when I first moved to LA, like I said, it wasn't as popular as it is now. Like now it's more mainstream. But it's been really crazy to see the evolution of like house music, dance music in LA. And I think there's like a lot of different genres within that, like EDM and, you know, like more mainstream like artists and like, but I'm talking like more kind of the underground like house techno scene. And like, you know, I would say the craziest party I've ever been to, hands down, easy to say this, is Burning Man. Absolutely. I've been there 5 years, like for 5 years in a row, but I haven't been recently, but I mean, you guys know about Burning Man, right?
I don't.
What?
I've heard of it, but I need to be
enlighten us.
Because
I mean, so Burning Man takes place like outside of it's in Nevada, and it's a place called Black Rock City.
I have heard of that. Okay,
and
okay,
like, it's kind of like a festival, I guess, but it's not really, because you have to like bring everything, all your own supplies, like. So it's like they only sell, which is really weird that they only sell this specific thing. They only sell coffee and ice. That's the only thing that Burning Man sells.
What?
So you have to bring, it's like camping, but like, I mean, because people like Google and Uber and stuff like that, they go camping. At Burning Man, it's not quite camping. It's literally like this whole production. So it's like now Burning Man has become almost like this elitist experience where it's like, how rich are you? You know what I mean? Because it's like, it's called plug and play camps, where it's like these camps come in and they're spending like hundreds of thousands of dollars to build these like infrastructures where there's like, it's like almost like a hotel. I mean, it's not almost like a hotel. There are camps that have like literally hotel rooms like that they build for the week. It's insane. So you can imagine the production that goes into this. And then, so like you have that. So it's like Burning Man, like Black Rock City, it's like that week, I think it's like about 70 or 80,000 people are there. And it's like, there's streets and they're all like, it's shaped like a horseshoe. So when you fly, so I've flown into Burning Man before. It's like, you see that it's like a horseshoe. But anyway, so everybody's in their camps and they all have, you know, there's all these coordinates, and it's like, you know, it's like you have to kind of learn how to get around. And it's like you have a bike or you have an art car. It's like a whole thing. It's like, I mean, I could explain this forever, but it's hard to fully understand unless you've been. But I would say the first time you go, you're like, where the fuck am I? It's like, it feels like you're on Mars, because like, so in the center of like the horseshoe is like this area called the Playa, and that's where people go out at night in their art cars, and they'll be like literally like full on like pirate ships with like a whole sound system on it, and people just partying. They'll have, you know, like a art car that's shaped as a duck. You know, the popular ones are called Robot Heart, you know, Mayan Warrior, like Diplo, like just, you know, he played on, like, I don't know if you guys saw him on, was it Jimmy Kimmel? Did you guys see him talk?
I didn't say, I saw he was on there, but I didn't watch
but,
that.
Like,
So
he talks about Burning Man on the show, and like he talks about the last Burning Man that there was, which was like the Rogue Burning Man, which it wasn't like, because of COVID, they had a Burning Man on Black Rock City, but it wasn't like, do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't put on by Burning Man. It was like the people just went there and did their own like little Burning Man, but it was real like rogue. And he was talking about how he did a set at Robot Heart, and it was one of his favorite sets. But regardless, if you want to have your mind completely blown, like at some point go to Burning Man, but just, it's a whole process to go. It's like you have to like travel to get there. You have to like set up a camp. You have to live there.
How long is it?
It's like a full week, but some people spend weeks there.
Like setting it up.
Yeah.
Damn.
So that is hands down the most
That sounds like it.
wild party I've ever. It's a 7-day party that doesn't stop. There's people partying everywhere, all ages, like kids go, you know, elderly go, and like it's a cool place, but it's like you see a lot of things that you're not, you know, people are just walking around naked. People have sex out in the open. There's camps where you can just go, like literally like camps where you can just go have sex. There's like orgy tents. Yeah.
You're kidding.
Uh-huh.
I need to see a documentary on this. I need to like see it.
I was about to say, yeah, because when you said Elise, I was like, damn, it sounds like some Bohemian Grove type shit. Like, you just out there, like, that's crazy.
It's crazy.
Damn. So you said, like, and also, like, big companies, they set up, like, tents and camps and stuff, too? Or not really? They're not supposed to?
No. They do, but they're not, like, it's not like you're, like, it's not like there's signage of, like, this is Google.
Got you.
You just are like, oh, that's the Google camp.
Right. Okay.
And everyone will be, like, and
you
all
could
these
tell.
Like nice art cards and like have nice like places to stay with showers. You know what I mean? And like,
yeah.
Do people perform at Burning Man?
It's like more DJs and stuff like that. Like,
got it.
Like Diddy, he goes like every year with like a whole crew.
That sounds like some shit Diddy would be at.
Yeah.
1 week party for sure.
Oh, he's like going for it. He's so fun. I mean, I've been to a couple parties like during like Winter Music Conference at his house, and like they're so crazy, and he's always like on the microphone, like just like praise God, and like, you know, at like 5 a.m, and you're just like, oh.
Oh man, that's crazy.
That's hilarious. I am just blown away by this entire conversation.
Yo, no, yeah, that's what I was gonna ask too. Because you were there during, like, the Paris Hilton, like, that whole era, too. Did you see reality TV kind of turning into what it is, like, when you were going to these events and stuff with them? Like, did you see that kind of coming?
I mean, I think it was happening because it was, like, Nicole Richie and Paris Hilton. It was The Simple Life, right? Like, that was their show that put them on the map. And then Kim, obviously, you know... And I've been like keeping up with the Kardashians. Like, you know, obviously I watched the show, and then now I watched their new show on Hulu. And like, they kind of really talk a lot about like Kim and like actually I read this outside of the show, but because Ray J's really come out kind of to say that, you know, he doesn't like how he's being portrayed in the show because it's like, I kind of, to be honest, like, I want to know. I'm dying to really know the real story, but we never will. Yeah. But he's saying, which is true, that, and I know this from like just porn, that they released the sex tape. Right. They're still making money off the sex tape. That was a conscious decision, and that was a decision that they modeled after Paris Hilton's sex tape came out. And then they're like, oh, look at Paris Hilton got such a boom and like her like whatever fame, like and Kim was like dying to be famous. She'll very much admit that. So I think they used Ray J, that was his idea to release the sex tape. And then I think that the controversy is like, you know, like in the new show of like the Kardashians this year, it's like they're like saying how like that Kim's like all upset because like, you know, there's more footage, but he's saying that's all like made up. Like he's saying that like
I saw that.
Yeah, and so, you know, he's sort of just saying that like, you know, it's just sort of, I think that's what's like so crazy about reality TV is that like and I mean now it's like we are all so influenced by the Kardashians, like as our society is. And I mean, not everyone, but like, I mean, I am, you know, like I'll be like, oh, what is Kim wearing? What is Chloe wearing? What is, you know, I'm actually wearing Good American right now. So it's like, you know, it's like whether we want to or not, we're getting influenced by what we see because like these are the people that like, and like I have friends that refuse to even like look at their social medias, watch the show or pay attention to them at all. But like, yeah, I mean, they've really influenced our society a lot. So yeah, I've seen it happen, but like just a different version of it and different people, you know, and I'm like, it just depends on what reality TV you like. Like, right. You know, like I pretty much, I mean, like people like The Real Housewives, people like Selling Sunset, people like, you know, I don't even know if RuPaul is considered reality TV, but like and that's not, but you know what I mean? There's tons of shows that like, you know, people connect with and like, but yeah, I mean, I think that like that was the start of it for sure when I moved to LA and just that sort of, but I think what has changed so much since then is like especially now is like the club life. It's like, of course people are going out, but like it's not how it was then. It was like people would go out every night. There'd be clubs every night. There'd be paparazzi at all the clubs every night.
Right.
This night was this club. This night was the other club. Now I think people go out, but I think because of COVID, it's like changed, you know?
Yeah.
Like people just, I think like, I don't know, how often, like, do you guys go out at night? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's few and far in between.
Right? Like it's not as popular. Like if you ask younger kids, like they would rather like stay at home. Whereas like before, I feel like that was just like the thing to do, or maybe that's just what I was doing. But yeah, I mean, I think that like it's just funny how, I don't know, just like that whole era is so copied now, like the early 2000s, and I really did live in that era. And it's sort of crazy to think back to it, and then I'm just like, wow, I feel really old, because it doesn't seem like that long ago, and I'm like, that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now it's like happening all over again with the way people are dressing.
No, and that's what I'm saying too. Like we heard brought it up earlier with the brands coming back. Like I saw Fubu getting ready to do something new. I just saw we're getting ready to interview a guy, like he's doing something with Dame Dash. They collab for like a line. So it's like all of those people that we looked up to in the 90s that people may have kind of like forgot about or just aren't privy to. Like it seems like it's all circling back now.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that was the other thing I was going to ask you too, because I went to I think I told you guys, I went to Complex Con in 2019. Yeah, I think it was 2019, right before the pandemic, or 2018. And Steve Stout was on the panel, and he was talking about like for brands, he felt like collaboration, technology, and culture. He said those were the three things that's going to push brands forward. And you were talking about collaborations too, because I remember at a point where I never saw brands like collaborating like that. Now it's like they do that with everything. Like it's brands I wouldn't even think would do it. I saw one with like Adidas and like Nike or Reebok or something like that the other day, and I was like, that's like unheard of. So like, what did you like? How you feel about that? Like just the collaboration? Because I love it, but I didn't know how far it was gonna go, and it seems like it's continuing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a good way to get people to buy more things.
Right.
Because it's sort of like, well, we're collaborating. Like, for instance, Hello Kitty and Nike just collaborated.
Oh.
And yeah, I mean, it pretty much all sold out right away, because that's like a huge deal. I saw like Jacquemus, or I never know if I say that brand or if I say it right, but they're doing a collaboration with Nike, which I'm like, oh, I want to see that, you know. And then it's like, you know, yeah. I mean, I just think it's a good way to get people to get, you know, like excited about things, you know, and like, and then it's like exclusive and limited, and then it has like a high resale value, especially because it's not like they're going to continually to make them. So I mean, collaborating is a really great way to like get multiple, like it's like, you know, for Tokidoki, like I look at it as like, well, how can we get like a different demographic into like Tokidoki, like that's not into it already. So it's like a good way to if you look at it like that. But yeah, I mean, and that's why, you know, like I've talked to a few people at like Complex Con about like brands that you wouldn't think that we would work with, you know? And so it's just sort of like thinking like, does this work? Does this make sense? And then you mentioned technology, and I think that's like a really relevant thing right now, just with like, I guess you could say NFTs is definitely technology.
Right, for
and
sure.
I think that like, if you're not in that space either, it's like, you're kind of not relevant either, you know what I mean? And like, not every brand can have an NFT, but like, I feel like so many people have NFTs now. And I think just being able to play in like the digital space in that way too.
It's important.
So yeah, I mean, I think that like, that's absolutely, what was the third thing he said?
And he said culture.
Well, yeah, like making sure that, you know, there is, like I said, like, you know, Comic-Con for Tokidoki, like that's very much our culture. That's very the world that we do well in. So I think it's just really knowing who your fan base is and catering to them and like giving them what they want, you know?
Yeah. And my last one for you, because I feel like it ties in too, is like we're in such a entrepreneurial space now. I think it's almost like people look down on like having a job. Like it's almost like not a cool thing.
I know.
Yeah. So I wanted you to kind of like talk on that and just like how you feel like, because I always feel like, you know, especially having a good job or something where you can build your skills only helps enhance your entrepreneurial skills. So how do you feel like it's helped you, or like just any advice you might have for other people who might be feeling that same way?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good question, actually, because I feel like I have a lot of younger friends, and like they all are like, you know, for lack of a better term, hustlers, you know, like not like all of them are hustling like that, but I'm saying like they just, you know, they're models or they're stylists, and they don't have a job where they like report to one, like, you know, boss or whatever. So I think this whole concept of like having a 9 to 5 and a boss is like kind of outdated, where people are like, oh, you have a job? Like that's surprising.
Oh, you have a job.
But like there's a lot of times I feel like so blessed that I'm in the situation I'm in, and it's like yeah, I mean, especially during the pandemic, like people lost their job, and like, you know, Tokidoki they didn't really let go of anyone during the time, and like and just, you know, like they are my family, and I think that having a job that, like, you know, basically, I mean, when I talk about like owning a brand, and like I see what the struggle, everyone wants to work for themselves, but like I see the owners of Tokidoki, and I was like, they work all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they're like, they don't get to like say like, oh, I'm done for the day, you know?
Right.
And so I feel like that's why I've gotten to do so many, like, especially when the pandemic hit, I was like, wow, I've really done so many things in my life. I've been you know, like 5 Burning Mans. I mean, this was my 19th Coachella.
God damn. We're working on our first one, Brooke.
Yeah, he got it. I've been, you know, after I stopped going to Burning Man, I really made the point to travel to places like I wanted to go to. So I went to Tokyo for the first time. I went to Africa. I went to like 5 different countries there. You know, like I've been obviously like all over Europe. I've been to Australia. I've been, you know, like the only 2 continents I haven't been to, which is actually surprising, is South America. I've been to like Central America a ton, and then I just haven't been to South America yet, and then I haven't been to Antarctica.
I just been to Colombia. I just went. You gotta go.
And everyone says it's
you gotta go.
Yeah, everyone says it's so bound. So my point is that like I think in life in general is sort of what you make of it, and so it's like what do you want to do? How do you want to spend your time? Like, and I think that working for someone can be almost better than, you know, owning your own brand. It just depends on what you want. Like, do you want that notoriety? Do you want that accomplishment? Do you want that like feeling of like, I did this, and like, I'm an entrepreneur and I started this brand? Like, you know, or you can have those accomplishments like working for other people as well. It's not like you can't have those feelings yourself, and then you don't have to like go home and like be like, oh, I have to like figure out how to pay everyone and payroll and those kind of things. So it's like, you know, and that's not why. I mean, like, I just saw my other friend who's always been a rep and sales rep, and she was like, I was telling her, I was like, oh, I was thinking of starting my own brand. And she's like, are you serious? She was like, are you serious? She's like, why would you do that? Like, because it's like when you've been a sales rep, you see how it's like this. It's like goes up and down and up and down, and like being the owner of a company that's like up and down, it's so stressful. But I'm not discouraging anyone from doing it, because I do think there's a lot of reward, and especially like if you really know that you want it, I recommend doing it.
Right, absolutely.
But like, I definitely don't think working for someone isn't cool.
Right.
You know, I think that can be just as cool and just as elevating, and you can like working for Diesel, working for all these brands have like gotten me in all these rooms and parties and places and experiences that like I never would have gotten just like doing something by myself. Like I saw the world in a way, you know what I mean? So I'm really thankful for all the experiences I've had, and like, we'll see. I mean, I might, you know, start my own brand. We'll see, you know.
Life is good, man. You can pick what you want to do.
Yeah, but like what I'm saying is I'm thankful that like I can really say like if tomorrow I like, you know, well, this is not happening, but if I got married and had a kid, I would be able to be like, you know what, I did it. Like I
enjoyed myself.
Did it. I did it all. I partied. I had fun. I experienced life. Now I'm ready for the next chapter. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is like I'm still having fun. Like I mean, I just. I've been during the pandemic. I've been talking to people, and they're like, I haven't really gone out. I've been going out this whole time, like even during not the lockdown time, because that was really taboo. But I've been going. There's been parties I've been going to this whole time,
Right.
And so going to, Coachella. I talked to a bunch of people. They're like, this is my first time being out 2 years. I was like, I cannot relate to that because
I've been outside.
Yeah,
we've been outside.
Yeah,
man.
But anyway, so that's. I hope that answers that question.
But
absolutely, it is very true that I noticed this younger generation. They don't want jobs.
Yeah, I always talk to people about that. I'm like, bro, just get you something that you can do while you're doing your other thing.
Yeah.
Get your bills paid.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think everyone wants to. It sounds. I'm not saying this to discourage people, but having your own brand sounds, I think, sometimes more glamorous than it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it can be a really amazing experience if you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, hey, bro, I want to thank you so much for stopping by. We appreciate you.